There are some nights when I am just laying in bed. I might wake up in the middle of the night and I'm sometimes still, I feel a little bit of panic. There's so much external factors, but you still feel I should be in a different space. Still feel, and it could be the fact that growing up American and growing up with this idea of hyper individualism in a hyper capitalistic society makes you feel you should have pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, that this was all your fault. If your life is not working out, it's all your fault. As I'm laying there at night with all of this backstory running through my mind, I still feel like, Tiana, you failed. Tiana, you failed. Tiana, you failed. And the amount of panic I feel from that, the amount of anxiety it gives me, the depression, I have some of the worst self talk. I still struggle with certain things because I have such negative internal self talk. I remember, in junior high, and elementary school, all of these things, high school, everything, growing up gifted from the time I pre-K. I learned to read at 3 years old. And from then on, it was you're extremely smart. You have a lot of potential. A lot of great things are expected from you, period. There's no question about it. That was the end of the story. You must be great because you are extremely smart and a lot of great things are expected from you. And the fact that sometimes now I can't feel like I don't live up to that story, it's really difficult for me. It's really hard on me. And that's kind of like what is sparked this whole thing about me thinking about like, well, why I can't girl boss anymore. And it's still bringing all of this shame to me, but then still having like all of this burning ambition inside of me because I had spent so long in spaces with people telling me you have to be more, you're going to be more, you have to do more, a lot is expected from you. I ran that business for like 7 years. I was CEO essentially and CMO. The business grew to seven figures, all D2C. We never wholesaled. And we built that business off of $4,000 from tips from working in nightlife. It was a crazy experience. By the end, we built our own warehouse. My sister was the COO, and she ran a team of 20 people inside of our warehouse where she was doing like procurement, fulfillment. We were doing our own manufacturing, all the things. My mom actually did all of the product development. She came up with all of our products. I was running a team of like 20 people virtually from all over the world doing the marketing and the ads and running the website and stuff like that. So it was quite an adventure, and it only came to an end because of COVID. Supply chain just went insane through COVID. And a business, when you're bootstrapping your own business, even if you're doing over seven figures, you can still be living hand to mouth. And with the cash flow situation, we were still living hand to mouth. And once the cash flow got too crazy, we weren't able to like sustain the business any longer. So we made a decision to close it. And then from there, I moved into doing consulting work. So that's kind of like the last 10-year summary of my work life. But yeah, I worked, the 80-hour work weeks for years. All I did was work. I really didn't have much of a life outside of it. It was really cool. I was like a member of the wing and stuff like that. So I was one of those people that was in there from 7:30 in the morning, and I wouldn't get home until probably 8 o'clock at night and stuff like that. And I would still work at night. Like I worked all the time. I also loved the work. I loved working so much, or so I thought. And then through that process and then closing the business, COVID, I also got pregnant in 2020, which is not the ideal time to get pregnant. I got pregnant, and with all of that, I started experiencing extreme burnout. My burnout symptoms led to actual physical symptoms. My hair was falling out. I started having panic attacks multiple times a day. I had to get on medication for that. I was seeing a therapist, but then the therapist also recommended that I go to a psychiatrist because they needed to like figure out a group of medications to like help me. I already had been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, so my anxiety was through the roof. I was dealing with depression. I was crying all day long. Like was insane. And feeling and like just constant like racing thoughts, and the thoughts were getting louder, and they started feeling like they were starting to go in a direction of like self-harm and ideations. So one day I was just crying on the porch, and I told my sister, hey, like I'm not feeling well. And she was like, it's not you, it's this place. By this place, she meant New York, she meant America, she meant everything that we have been going through. And then she was like, we just probably need to just get out of here, right? This is after our business had closed. And I was like, yeah. And I just threw it out there. I was like, we should just move to Bali. And she was like, we should. She's a travel girly anyway. So for her, it was like, yeah, we should. And then I was like, we should call mom and tell her, let's just move to Bali. And she was like, yeah. So in between having that first conversation and moving to Bali, maybe a little bit more than 6 months, when we actually pulled the trigger, it took about like 2.5 months. And then we like, gave away all of our stuff, threw the rest of it away, put a little bit in storage, packed our bags, and we boarded flights. And that was that. And I came to Bali with the intention of, I'm going to heal my burnout within like 6 months. And then I'm going to start a new idea, and I'm going to build a new business, and I'm going to financially get back on track, and blah, 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 blah. And like that definitely didn't happen. I thought 6 months was more than enough time to recover from burnout. And in actuality, it is not. I think that idea even came from the same old version of myself that was always putting everything on a timeline and was always hustling and moving through everything quickly. The same version of myself that would work 80-hour weeks in order to make something happen. I was like, cool, I can just bang out burnout and then get better and like get right back to building a new business. And that was insanity. That was really, really crazy, that whole idea. So now this summer would be like 2 years of my burnout recovery story. And I am better in some ways. I don't cry every day anymore, any of those things. I don't have regular panic attacks anymore, stuff like that. I'm still dealing with negative self-talk. It ebbs and flows. I have some times where I'm doing good, and then I have other times where it just really attacks me. But I think also too, some of that now has to do with, I believe I'm starting perimenopause and late self-diagnosed AUDHD. All of that is like weaved into here. So that is the longest version of who I am. And maybe you connect to some of that stuff. And if you connect to any of that, please tell your story in the comments. Let me know which areas you connect to, what you've been through, because we're all going to be like unpacking and healing this together. But I just wanted to give you like a full idea of like who I was. So as I started to research, right? One of the things that came back was you cannot just go back to hustling. Why? Because your brain has actually made some changes once you started to enter into burnout. And then once you're now going into burnout recovery, right? It was like for decades, your nervous system was learning to use cognitive achievement and productivity as a primary strategy to regulate. And now those things don't align anymore. So you're not able to use the things that you used to do to calm yourself, which is, I'm going to work harder, I'm going to work harder. Your body's actually fighting against that. So now you kind of have to like figure out something completely different. And then the research shows that because your success as a gifted kid or a driven founder was so heavily rewarded, my brain, your brain, our brains associate being productive, impressive, and helpful with being safe and accepted. So when we don't do those things, when we're not practicing those things and we're trying to learn something new, we actually feel very vulnerable, right? Like there's a lot of times I just feel like a loss and adrift. I don't feel like successful anymore. So that's really crazy. And then it was like when you stop hustling, your nervous system does not experience it as relief. It experiences it as a threat. And I don't know how many of you struggle with this, but I definitely do that. I have to relearn to not be against rest. Like even laying in the bed sometimes. And here's the thing, what's crazy is like, I like a little nap. I love a little nap in the middle of the day. I think that's cute. And I also now go to bed. I go to bed. Some people in my family call me grandma because I go to bed between like Normally between like 9 and 10, but I am not afraid of going to bed at 8:30, 8 o'clock if I'm tired. But I also always normally get up around 4, between 4 and 5 a.m. That's just my personal habit. I really love the world when the world is extremely quiet and no one wants anything from me. Side of that, like if you're taking a day off or stuff like that, sometimes my brain races because I feel like I need to be doing something to get to where I need to be. And I discount rest as part of that scenario. And that's something that we all really need to work on because the research is also describing the anxiety that comes with stillness as essentially adrenaline withdrawal, which I think I might have to spend more time with that. Essentially, adrenaline withdrawal, the anxiety that is coming with stillness is essentially adrenaline withdrawal. And that makes sense. And it also makes sense when I think about things like my hair falling out and all of that stuff. It was like my cortisol levels were so high because I was just in fight and flight for so many years. And now I'm over here in Bali trying to practice stillness. And it's sometimes it gives me anxiety. And they're saying essentially that's adrenaline withdrawal. Let me know what you think about that. Then it says here, the feeling of floating without direction is not you losing your edge. It's your body experiencing the uncomfortable absence of chronic stress for the first time. So I guess that goes right along with the adrenaline withdrawal. And then your nervous system built itself around the hustle and is now having to learn that stillness is not the same of danger. The research calls all of this rewiring, and it frames it proving to your body that you are allowed to exist without producing anything. Apparently, this is not a small thing to learn in our 30s and our 40s, our 50s, if we have never believed it. So we are doing a complete restructure and rewiring of our entire brain and nervous system through this process. And this is why we feel like we can't girl boss anymore, because all of the things that were making us like great at the hustle was really bad for our body. And then our body kind of like quit on it. And now we can't meet the two. And I feel like I'm failing. But like some of this research, I'm kind of reading it for the first time. I had it compiled for me so I can have like more like live reactions as we're going through this. So the conversation feels more authentic since I'm here by myself. But that was a lot to take in, especially the adrenaline withdrawal. That's something that I think that's really going to sit with me. And then let's now pivot a little bit and let's talk about the grief of losing the girl boss and why it's real. I think in a lot of conversations, we immediately just focus on like the great part of, moving into a space of wellness and stuff like that. And I don't see a lot of conversations about the grief of losing who you were. Who I was exhausting. And the scenarios I was in was killing you. But she was also highly capable, and a lot of people had a lot of respect for her. And I had a lot of respect for her as well. The research says that that's called the false self. It's an identity built entirely around function, capability, and self-sufficiency rather than your own authentic needs. And it's richly rewarded with like praise, status, money, respect, and a sense of direction. So letting go of that version of yourself is confronting what the research calls cognitive self-worth, the deeply ingrained belief that your value is tied strictly to your output. And baby, I feel like that shows up in so many aspects of your life, right? Like the people pleasing, the relationships, the men you chose, the businesses you built, the fact some people become professional students, all of those things, right? The deeply ingrained belief that our value is tied strictly to our output is called cognitive self-worth. The research is explicit that it's completely normal to grieve the loss of the false self, because for decades, she was your most successful survival mechanism. She kept you safe, even though she was destroying you at the same time. And you can't just, with a touch of a button, decide to stop missing her. I definitely miss her sometimes. And I miss knowing what I'm doing next. I miss having a plan that was like 10 years out. I miss feeling like I have complete clarity. I miss being like, boom, I want to do this certain thing and I'm working 10 to 15 hours per day to get it. All of that is gone now. I just don't have the capabilities. And then when you layer on single mom on top of that, it's just not there. So there's some grief there, you know? Now let's talk about like why feeling like a failure right now doesn't actually mean that you're failing, right? I don't know about you, but in addition to all of this, I feel so tired. Like it's like my brain is exhausted and I can understand why it would feel like that after, all these years of hustling and ambition and trying to make things work and figure things out and reading all these books and da 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 da. Like I'm there's a profound level of exhaustion in me, right? And I also feel disoriented. I feel lost at sea a little bit, adrift. I feel my mom and I had a cute, what we would call, what the people call mentee B. I had a little mentee B last week, right? So mentee B is like a real small mental breakdown, right? It's like the days when you get on the phone or you can't get out of bed for like one day, or you call somebody, you cry for a couple hours. That was me. I called and I cried for a couple hours, whatever. It's not the full bells and whistles. Like I had more of the full bells and whistles before, but this was just I'm a cute little mentee B, right? So I had a cute little mentee bee. And one thing I had told my mom is just like, I feel like I'm in the loss in the in between. I'm not who I was, but I'm also not who I'm going to be. And I don't know what the hell is going on here in the middle, right? But apparently the research calls this the acute phase of burnout recovery and frames it as a period of stabilization, not optimization. So apparently we're not supposed to, in this moment, keep trying to work on becoming the best version of ourselves. So like when you like, cool, this week I was really good at rest. So like, let me see next week, how good at rest can I be? I'm going to be tracking it. I'm going to be doing this and doing that. And I know for girls like me, that's a habit of ours. We are constantly looking to become really great at every single little thing. And apparently that's not what we're supposed to be doing right now. We're supposed to just be letting things happen and apparently just being the watcher of the things and less trying to optimize everything. And don't even get me started on monetizing things, right? Like that was also a bad habit of mine. It's something that I'm trying to work on. And that's probably a whole nother video on its own. Like stop monetizing your hobbies. Stop monetizing the things that bring you peace and bring you joy. Like maybe pick one or two, but like when you try to monetize every single little thing because you're addicted to girl bossing, you then have nothing left for you that is not attached to status, praise, money, that kind of thing. So the goal right now is to not do a ton of inside work or skill building or figuring out your next chapter. And I don't know about you, but when I hear that, like my stomach drops a little bit into like my pinky toe. It's like, what do you mean no skill building? Inside work, figure out my next chapter. Like that's like all I do is unpack, 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 and build and build and build and plan and plan and plan. Unpack, build, and plan. That probably could be the name of one of my memoirs. Like, that's all I do, So that feels extremely difficult, right? The goal right now is stabilization and drastically reducing demands. The research is so specific about this. Do not try to life hack your way through this phase. The floating feeling is documented. It is what happens when your nervous system is finally collapsing the gap between who you are and who you have been pretending to be. Ooh, damn, not pretending. I wouldn't, well, maybe. I feel like pretending feels harsh. Pretending is feeling uncomfortable to me right now when I hear the words pretended to be. But I'm feeling a little bit upset. I even got a little bit misty. If you're not watching this in a video, can't even really see me being misty in a video. But I feel the pricks behind my eyes. It's not that I was pretending to be anything. I was just being who the world needed me to be and who I thought I should be. So I think it's still a version of me. It's not a pretending, but is it my most authentic self? Probably not, if we're going to be honest. Probably not. But I mean, this is why we're doing this unpacking, right? So we can work through this stuff together. We got to work through this stuff together because this stuff is killing us. And apparently, the rewiring is not comfortable and it's not quick. I'm going into year 2 of burnout, and this is the phase that I'm still here. Feeling like a failure right now does not mean that you're failing. It means that you're healing, and healing from a lifetime of performance conditioning does not happen in a linear or impressive way. So I think maybe we can leave it here and maybe just kind of like wrap up the final piece with the gifts are still ours. It's just a different operating system. And this is the part that I have to remind myself regularly, right? Because the research shows acknowledging the trauma of burnout does not negate the reality of your gifts. Our intelligence is real. Our leadership capabilities are still real. Our ability to execute is still real. What is changing? It says what is changing is not the capacity, it's the fuel source. So the clinical goal of burnout recovery is not to destroy our ambition, it's to heal the core wound so we can eventually access our excellence from a place of genuine choice rather than compulsion or fear. So that's the goal. That's what we're working on. It's getting to a place where I'm choosing when and how I want to be excellent and I decide what excellence means. And I'm not compulsively trying to be excellent for other people or to uphold this version of myself that other people say I should be, right? I'm no longer executing out of survival mode. We are learning slowly and uncomfortably to choose where to place our energy. So the research is saying this is our only job right now, is to follow our curiosities without monetizing them. We're going to ask ourselves what makes us feel alive when no one is watching, nothing is at stake, not what you're good at. Okay? That's key. Not what you're good at, but what you actually want. And those are two very different questions, and we need to be able to sit with those questions and figure these things out. So what I wanted you to take away from this, I do not have a resolution because I do not have one for myself. I felt like a failure yesterday. I felt like a failure someday tomorrow. I'm probably going to feel like a failure tonight. I'm probably going to feel, I feel like I'm feeling most days. I cannot find the version of me that knew what to do next and can execute, blah, 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 blah. But apparently, I need to stop looking for her. I need to stop looking for that version of me. It was killing me, And now with the research giving us a framework for what's happening, we can kind of lean onto that when we are feeling uncertain. Right? Right now, our framework is to allow this rewiring to happen, to follow our curiosities, to allow the grief to be there, and to have these conversations with other people who've been in the same space so we can kind of like support each other. So I'm on the ride with you. I have no idea where this is going, but I think documenting this and being honest is more useful than pretending that, I was a girl boss, I'm doing other things now, blah, 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 blah. I was burnt out, but now I'm better. I live in Bali, blah, blah, blah. That's not the truth. So once again, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a clinician. I am who I am, and I'm sharing my experience. So take what resonates and bring your actual like questions and feelings and diagnoses and stuff to an actual professional. Do not substitute this video for actual clinical support. So I'm building this space for women who are in this conversation and don't have anywhere to talk about it. I'm going to have a link in bio when it's ready. But for now, we can have this conversation, in the comments. So, all right, guys, till the next one.